People get so obsessed with, the grapefruit diet and,
Right.
Eliminating gluten, like you said, eliminating
tequila
gluten,
diet.
the tequila diet.
That's just me.
Yeah, I was like, where'd that come from?
When we did our market research, health and wellness was number one for 85% of the respondents who took our survey.
Oh, wow.
So this is obviously something that's very much top of mind. Are we thinking about it more? Are we just feeling it more? What's going on?
I think as we've progressed as a society and technology has taken over a lot of functions that we needed to do by hand, that we have a lot more free time. And so we're able to spend more time thinking about health and wellness and how to take care of ourselves the best we can.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Are we just overthinking it?
Yeah. Maybe a little from column A, a little from column B. We're learning a lot more through public health about what is healthy. There was a time when we thought smoking was really good to lose weight. A time when we thought smoking helped you live longer.
Right, or cure cancer.
Or cure cancer. And so now, thanks to research and scientific method, we've learned that obviously that isn't true, and we've just learned a lot more about toxins and what makes us healthy. On the other hand, focusing too much on it can lead to its own set of problems.
What are the main levers of good health that you've seen, that you guys have researched? What do we know actually are the things that impact whether or not you lead a healthy life?
We know from research, for example, that including work that I've done, that your mind really dramatically affects your body. So I have my own Twitter feed, and I posted a study from colleagues at Stanford that showed just the power of the placebo effect, for example.
Right,
just a doctor telling you that he or she has a positive, that she expects the best is going to happen, that had a huge effect on allergic response among patients.
Interesting. What are some of the others?
Right, yeah. So obviously physical health, so exercise, movement, there's nutrition, that's incredibly important.
Which one is bigger? Isn't there a big competition going on now? Is it diet versus exercise, and one's always leading? Yeah,
that's a tough one. I think if you're talking, it depends what your goal is. For losing weight, we would say that the diet is the most important. But so that being said, it gets complicated because the people who lose weight and keep it off, 90% tend to have a very strict exercise regimen as well. In the 80s, there was a big low-fat craze because some scientists decided that fat was the problem.
Right.
That was a huge mistake, and it led to all of these products that had tons of sugar and tons of unhealthy ingredients, but they were low-fat. And that only, there's evidence that contributed to the obesity problem, which we have seen grown since then considerably. And so, just targeting fat has led to greater obesity. And the same with, we're now seeing gluten-free diets. Right. And the same thing is happening. They're removing gluten, and those products actually tend to have more sugar. The research is still in its infancy, and something called gluten sensitivity. Right. And there are some people who seem like they're pretty sensitive to gluten, and that's a real effect. But for the average person, avoiding gluten because it's the fad can be really dangerous. One misnomer, was the standing desks, that people think, as long as I'm standing, then it's healthy. And at least some preliminary studies suggest that being still, either whether you're standing or sitting, those are both
the same.
But yeah, those are both bad. Sometimes people get in a pattern of just doing the same exercise. Right. So, I'm going to go and I'm going to do the same run, the same jog for 3 miles at the same speed, same place. They're going to find that their body will adapt to that exercise. Right. Or if you have a machine at home and you do the same thing, you just sort of hit the timer and you do that bike for the exact same amount of time, your body's going to adapt so that it doesn't lose as much weight.
But that's for weight loss. What about the health benefits then?
Health benefits, we like to see people do 2 types of exercise. Okay. So one is cardiovascular. You want your blood moving. You want to be gradually losing, your breath a little bit. Right. You get
your heart's pumping.
Your heart's pumping. Another type of exercise that's really important is resistance. And that you can get either from doing something like yoga or lifting weights.
Weight training, yeah.
And lifting weights or lifting your body weight is really very important.
So marriage is not resistance. We're not talking about that. It's not that kind of resistance.
Not that kind of resistance. Yeah, maybe.
Damn it! No health benefit from being a pain in the ass wife. So coming back to those determinants, we said mental health.
Right.
We said exercise. We said
Nutrition.
Diet.
Spirituality is another one that again
It's a big one.
It's a big one. And we don't know. That's also kind of an open question. There are a lot of people who think that prayer is really powerful. I think more recently we've looked at, and I've looked at in my research as well, mindfulness and meditation, which traditionally was part of spirituality.
Yeah.
And that there are some really positive health effects from that.
But are they studied enough? Because obviously my box of tea tells me to meditate and it's going to be good for my body. But is that truly the case?
Well, there's enough research that shows that for at least a large amount of the population, not everyone, that it can be incredibly powerful. Particularly, I might say, in this digital culture when we're being reinforced just constantly left and right by images. And
to tune it out and
tune
be
it
present.
out and sort of just be in the present moment.
What about sleep?
Sleep is a really powerful one. Yeah. I guess I'm lucky that as a clinical health psychologist, I get to deal with all of these different things.
You get to nap at work. That's good.
That would be nice. Yeah. No, not quite. But the sleep is a huge one. Without sleep, we become more irritable. There are some cognitive effects. In addition, we will hallucinate after a day or two.
That's forms of torture, right? To keep you awake.
Yeah. There's some evidence that people are more likely also to take care of themselves when they get more sleep, eat well.
And make better decisions.
Certainly. And also, I think one I love to say is that, if you're up late at night, for example, what kind of food are you going to grab? Are you going to grab like a zucchini or some salad?
Okay, I'm fairly sure I'm never grabbing a zucchini. No point in the day am I going for zucchini. Let's just be very clear. But I get your point, yes.
Fair enough. And so we end up eating a lot of trash at night.
So how much sleep does the average adult need, and do women need more than men? I certainly love my sleep. I'm like a camel. I'm like, ciao. So see you in a few years.
I think you want to get at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Really?
Yeah, you really
have to
do.
take off like a month.
A good sign of whether you're getting enough sleep is whether you wake up naturally. If you need an alarm to get up, you're not sleeping enough.
I'm not sleeping. Is anybody sleeping enough? If you're sleeping enough, comment below and let us know. We want to know what you're doing with your life.
Try to find a time, like an hour or so before bed, that you just gradually take out the lights and gradually also reduce arousal or physiological arousal, where you're reducing a lot of what's going on in the home space.
So let's talk about diet trends.
Okay, yeah.
Juicing, intermittent fasting.
Good,
all
yeah.
that. Like, what's the story?
So we are finding that fiber is particularly important for our diet. So when some people move to juicing, sometimes it makes me laugh a little bit, because to a certain extent, juicing is good. It's better than drinking pure sugar. Right. But if you take out all the fiber when you juice it, then it becomes a shot of sugar. A whole apple is going to be better than smoothie apple.
Right. Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting. The data shows that it's similar to just normal calorie restriction. And for some people, it's going to work really well. It's going to be more natural for them, and great. But in general, the studies haven't shown a big difference. Another really big determinant of health that people forget about because it's not as sexy as nutrition or physical activity is social interaction. And we know, for example, that loneliness is more deadly than smoking. And so we should be being social. We should make time for it in the same way that we make time for exercise.
But it's the same problem as mental health, right? It's put in a separate bucket, but they're actually so related. And it's not something that we reinforce as a culture at all. Mm-hmm. We reinforce ambition. We encourage productivity. We encourage aggression, but we don't reinforce put your shit down and go have a glass of wine with
Yeah.
your friend. Well, I'm a very social creature, but I'm also an entrepreneur, which means often I'm spending the whole day working by myself. So by 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm like panting like a dog outside the door, waiting for someone to come talk to me. And I love my kids, and I spend a lot of time with them. Dinner time is always together. Bedtime is 8:30 on a weeknight. At 8:30, they're out, and if I can, I'll be out meeting a friend, having a drink, listening to some music somewhere. But I definitely find that days when I don't have meaningful connectivity and meaningful connection, I feel low. I definitely feel down. And one thing we did as families growing up is we had other family friends. So the parents, the kids, we'd all travel together. We'd spend Sunday afternoons together. And some of those kids are still my best friends.
Wow.
Because we've had such rich interaction together and we have so much context. I cannot talk to them for 5 years and still pick up the phone and share the same joke.
Sometimes when people get together, that actually encourages some physical activity as well.
Yeah,
kids
true.
will run around more.
They're going crazy.
Yeah, there will be sometimes. I know my parents. It gets them out of the house to go to the plays with their friends. And,
Absolutely. So let's talk about the standing desk and other really irritating fads or trends or myths that you've seen come through, things that have been marketed to us as healthy or have just somehow camouflaged their way into our fabric, thinking that we're making ourselves feel better. What else are you seeing?
So we talked about gluten-free, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is just gluten being replaced by sugar.
Be careful, people.
Yeah. We talked about standing desks.
Yeah.
Oh, sleep. That's a good one. So people talk about, when I get towards the end of the day and I want to sleep better, I'll just throw on that night light or that eliminate the blue.
Off the screen, you mean?
Off the screen.
Yeah, the new light that's going to eliminate the light off the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've seen that on your laptop.
I think apparently the Kindle tends to have it, right?
The
That's
Kindle. My laptop does it automatically now. And actually, the iPhone also does. What they're finding is that particularly LCD screens, they emit a very high intensity of white light and the blue and on the blue spectrum as well. Even with that filter on, you're still getting a lot of similar light, and it's going to keep you up. It's going to interfere with your sleep.
Yeah. So when you say fiber, what are the natural sources of fiber?
There are a few different types of fiber. There's the fiber that you can digest a little bit, and the fiber that goes straight through you. They're both really good. And you need lots of fiber. They've done studies on populations that live on a really similar to the hunter-gatherer diet that we assume early humans lived on. And they have this incredible diversity of bacteria that live in their gut. We think that's associated with a low level of inflammation and just general good health. But you look at the variety of bacteria in our gut, and it's decreasing over time. Also over our lifespan, it decreases. And they think that perhaps it's because as we get older, we tend to eat more refined things. It's possible.
Like processed foods.
Processed foods.
And they then are basically attacking the good bacteria.
Yeah, there are a few species that live off of that, and they tend to get overgrown. It's kind of like thinking about tending a garden,
Yeah.
You don't want to have all of one kind in your garden because you want to have a variety of vegetables and fruits. And like that, when you're tending your garden in your stomach, you want a variety. And so actually that's how they measure health. Again, the research is still in its infancy, but the way we measure it is by how much variety of bacteria is in your gut. And you want more variety. And you get that with fiber.
3 things that you would say are absolute must-dos for adults, taking into account, cultural variability, age, metabolism, all of it.
You are what you eat. So I think, making sure that you're eating natural whole foods. Like I said, whole grains, whole vegetables. That's something that's
easy. Everybody
Easy.
knows that,
You know how to do that.
I'm not going to go into organic versus pesticides.
Ooh, that's a
tough
tough one.
That's a whole different. That's a whole different show.
Different show. then I would say a little bit of movement. You need some movement. It doesn't need to be wild and crazy, but move your body.
To the bar and back.
At 8 o'clock after
the bar
the kids
again
are in
and
bed.
back.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we get so revved up in this culture, like you said, this striving. We need time when we're not striving. We need to wind down. That can be, sleep can be part of that, but ideally you're also having some sort of like a relaxing time socially with friends.
Could you leave us with some resources? Websites, books, places that we can go to for factual information on health, not product driven or some sort of marketing spiel, but places that you would even refer to,
right?
Just for information.
Actually,
are you going to whip out some product?
I know, right? It's like
Dr. Stanton's gluten.
No, I was going to say I post a lot of things on I have a Twitter feed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just,
what is it?
It's at Dr. Mike Stanton. So
that's Dr.
Mike Stanton. And I post just a lot of studies that come out of places, like schools that you've heard, Harvard, Stanford, places that I've been and studied at, and also my colleagues who I know are doing really great work. Right. Harvard is a great website as well as the Mayo Clinic. Right. Those are two really good resources.
Okay. Dr. Stanton, thank you
so much for inviting me.
I feel healthier already.